It was just another day on the set of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. The cameras were being set up, the cast was getting ready, and the crew expected nothing more than another day of filming the usual drama. But what no one knew was that this day would be different. A moment of truth was about to change everything. In the world of reality TV, shocking revelations and intense conflicts are nothing new. But this wasn't just another scripted argument or over-the-top confrontation. This was real. And it was about to expose a truth that had remained hidden for years. Lil Scrappy, the beloved rapper and reality star, had long been a fan favorite. Known for his larger-than-life personality, his struggles, and his triumphs, Scrappy had fought through the streets, the music industry, and his own personal demons. His journey of redemption was one that many had followed closely, watching as he balanced family, fame, and his career. But behind the cameras, away from the public eye, a darker truth had been kept in silence. The studio was buzzing as usual, with cast members preparing for their scenes, makeup artists making last-minute touch-ups, and producers finalizing the day's schedule. Yet amid all this, one person stood apart. She wasn't preparing for drama in the usual sense. She wasn't an actress or a reality star looking for the spotlight. She was Lil Scrappy's assistant, a woman who had worked behind the scenes for years, ensuring his life and business ran smoothly. But today, she had something to say. And she wasn't going to hold back any longer. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward. The usual background noise of the set faded into silence as people turned to watch her. Taking a deep breath, she finally spoke. "I've never said this before, but it's time for the truth to come out." Her voice was steady, but the weight of what she was about to reveal was clear. The atmosphere shifted. The usual light-hearted chatter vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness. Everyone on set could sense that something serious was about to unfold. "I've kept this to myself for a long time," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "But I can't hide it anymore. People need to know what really happened." Some cast members exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to expect. Others, who had seen glimpses of Scrappy's temper over the years, braced themselves for what they feared was coming. Then, with quiet intensity, she dropped the bombshell that would change everything. "There was a time when Scrappy... he hurt me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "When he was drunk, he lost control. And it wasn't just once. It happened more than once." The room went still. Her words hung heavy in the air, sending shockwaves through the set. It was as if time itself had stopped. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. She wasn't speaking out to gain sympathy or to destroy Scrappy's reputation. She was simply telling the truth, a truth she had carried in silence for far too long. "I didn't want to speak out," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't want to hurt him, but what happened wasn't right. No one should have to suffer in silence, especially not in the name of loyalty." The weight of her words was undeniable. The people around her, cast members, crew, producers, couldn't ignore the reality of what she had just exposed. Scrappy, the man they had laughed with, worked with, and cheered for, was now facing the consequences of his past actions. As she continued, she painted a heartbreaking picture of what had been happening behind closed doors. There were nights when he would come home after drinking, already angry. "I never knew what would set him off. One wrong word, one small mistake, and suddenly, everything would spiral out of control." She paused, steadying herself before continuing. "There were times when he didn't even realize his own strength," she said, her voice shaking. "And in those moments, he wasn't the man I thought I knew." The people listening could barely process what they were hearing. This wasn't just another scandal for the show. This was real pain, real trauma, and it had been hidden in plain sight for years. As the reality of the situation sank in, some people shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to say. Others looked genuinely shaken. The assistant, however, had no more doubts. She had carried this burden for too long, and now she had finally spoken her truth. Whether Scrappy would respond, deny, or try to explain himself remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: this revelation would change everything. And in a world where the truth is often buried under fame and public image, one woman had finally decided to break the silence. The question now was, what happens next? It started like any other day on the set of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. The cameras were rolling. The cast was getting ready for another episode filled with the usual drama, and the crew was setting up as they always did. But no one could have expected what was about to unfold, a moment so raw and unexpected that it would change everything. As the assistant stood off to the side, her hands shook slightly. She had worked for Lil Scrappy for years, always in the background, always making sure his life ran smoothly. She had seen him through his ups and downs, his victories and struggles. But today was different. Today, she wasn't just an assistant, she was a woman ready to tell her truth. Her voice trembled as she finally spoke. "I've never talked about this before, but it's time. I can't stay silent anymore." The set grew eerily quiet. The usual buzz of conversation and preparation stopped as everyone turned to look at her. Even the cast members, who had seen their fair share of fights and explosive confrontations, could sense that this was something deeper, something more serious. Taking a deep breath, she continued. When Scrappy was drunk, he wasn't himself. He lost control. It wasn't just words, it was actions, and it hurt. The weight of her confession hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Some of the cast exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from shock to concern. Many of them had seen Scrappy's temper before, but this was different. This wasn't just a heated argument for the cameras. This was real. This was pain. As she spoke, her voice filled with emotion. Her vulnerability was undeniable. She wasn't just exposing a dark chapter of her past. She was confronting the very man who had built a public image of charm and resilience. Fans had always admired Scrappy for his ability to bounce back from challenges, but now they were seeing a side of him they never expected. The following days on set were tense. Scrappy's absence was impossible to ignore. The cameras kept rolling, but the energy had shifted. The crew and cast members were on edge, waiting for him to say something, anything. Would he defend himself? Would he apologize? The Love and Hip Hop franchise thrived on conflict, but this was different. This wasn't just entertainment. This was real-life consequences playing out in front of millions. Outside the show, the reactions were just as intense. Some fans praised the assistant for her bravery, applauding her for speaking her truth. Others, however, began questioning her timing. Was she speaking out to help others, or was this just another storyline for ratings? But regardless of public's opinion, one fact remained clear. Abuse in any form could not be ignored. And no matter the circumstances, no matter the fame, accountability was necessary. Scrappy, once known for his music career and larger-than-life personality, now found himself in the middle of a scandal that could ruin everything he had built. His fans, his career, his reputation, it was all on the line. The question everyone wanted an answer to was simple. How would he respond? After days of silence, Scrappy finally spoke. In a private conversation with close friends and family, he admitted that his past actions, fueled by alcohol and unchecked anger, had caused deep pain. "I regret a lot of things," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was in a bad place and I made mistakes, but that doesn't excuse anything." His admission was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a step toward redemption, proof that he was ready to take responsibility. Others weren't convinced. Words were easy, but real change required action. Could he prove that he had learned from his mistakes? Could he rebuild the trust he had broken? Meanwhile, the assistant, having finally shared her truth, began the process of healing. She wasn't speaking out for revenge or clout. She simply wanted to free herself from the burden she had carried for so long. "I stayed. Silent because I didn't want to ruin his life," she admitted. "But what about mine? What about the pain I had to live with every day?" No one should have to suffer in silence. Her words resonated far beyond the Love and Hip Hop audience. People who had been through similar experiences saw themselves in her story. She had given them a voice, a reminder that their pain was valid, and that they too deserved justice. As the show moved forward, the impact of this revelation continued to ripple through every episode. Scrappy's journey was now uncertain. Would he truly change? Would he take real steps toward making amends? Or would he continue to downplay the situation, hoping it would blow over? One thing was certain, the truth was out, and there was no turning back. The final scene of the episode was hauntingly quiet. The camera lingered on the assistant's face, her eyes filled with both pain and relief. She had done what she needed to do. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time she felt free. For Scrappy, however, the road ahead was filled with uncertainty. Would he use this moment as a wake-up call? Or would he let his past define him? For the audience, this wasn't just another dramatic twist in reality TV. This was real life. And sometimes, the truth was more powerful than any scripted storyline.